Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be, and welcome. My name is Ed Dawson. I work as a business development manager in the Dubai office. I have a background of vocational training and education for around 20 years in the region. And we're lucky to have Steve Flaherty, who's delivering the session today, an experienced trainer, and he'll tell you more about his experiences as a trainer and also how he's now taken his training online. A couple of things to note. Questions. Please use the Zoom group chat to ask your questions, and please direct them to me. Every 15 minutes or so, Steve will stop and we will take questions from the floor. At the end of the session, Steve's also happy to take your personal questions by yourself. However, towards the end, I'll be asking for people to type their name into the group chat if they want to ask a question verbally. As I said right at the start, for those who weren't here, this will be shared on social media. So therefore, if you don't want your face to appear on any form of social media, please do close your camera. We're also supported by Anna Cruz today. Anna is in the background, making sure that people are getting in and out of the room. So without further ado, what I'd like to do is hand over to Steve Flaherty to introduce himself, and I'll speak to you again in about 15 minutes. Thank you, Steve.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, as I said, my name's Steve, and I'm talking to you from here in Dubai. Now, as you can see, I consult for a company called Achieve Consultancy based here in the UAE, but we have clients globally. What I'm going to talk to you today about is how I've adapted my training to a virtual online platform. Also, how Highfield have actually supported me through this journey and Highfield's passion to support you as a training centre. So what we're going to look at is mostly training methodology. However, if you do have marketing questions in regards to how you can push things out to people on a virtual platform, I'm more than happy to assist you in that process as well, either today during our 1-hour session, or if you send me an email or contact me through Highfield's international office themselves. So, ground rules, just to further enforce what Ed was saying. The first one is the webinar will last for approximately 1 hour. However, those who know me, and there are a few people on this current webinar who actually know me in person, you do know that I like to talk. So we may slightly go over that 1 hour period. All microphones, please, 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 unless Edward has said, please unmute yourself and ask the question, please keep them muted during the whole of this webinar. This is a virtual platform, so if somebody's microphone isn't muted and they're making more noise than me, it actually disrupts the signal for everybody else. So please, 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 as far as is reasonably possible, keep your microphones muted. As I'd said, ask questions. This is a vital time for us to continue our business development during lockdown and change the dynamic of how we deliver training. A little bit more about me. I've been in the region now for approximately 15 years. Before that, I was in the British military for 15 years, operating all over the world. I left the military in 2005 and went to Iraq as a private security consultant. I then left Iraq. I came here and settled here during my time in Iraq, and then I started to consult. I eventually was lucky enough to own my own business. I then sold my business and then started to work for Highfield in a similar role to Ed as an international business development and government liaison manager at the head office here in Dubai. I then was headhunted by La Pearl, which is a fantastic show here in Dubai that are about to celebrate 3 years of being open. I've been with La Pearl from the start, from training and formation. But unfortunately, due to this pandemic that is sweeping the world, my plan A, as in my day job, has now finished and I'm on unpaid leave. Instead of sitting down watching Netflix, I decided to revert back to my plan B as a trainer and consultant with Achieve. As you can see from the images, I also practice martial arts. Now again, due to the pandemic, I can't face-to-face practice with people. But what I have done is designed a support structure that I'm running 2 classes per week for my father's company back in the UK. One for Sistema, which is a Russian martial art, one for Jiu-Jitsu, which is a traditional Japanese martial art. Okay? With Highfield, I train the full spectrum of health, safety and security, including pool and beach lifeguarding. I also consult in regards to crisis and emergency management. Okay, so that's enough about me, really. Our collective aim for today is vitally important, and this is why I want you to ask pertinent questions relative to your decision-making process. The first part of our aim is to enable us to understand the capabilities of what Highfield have to offer. Things like e-learning, how we can use that as a standalone platform, and how we can develop blended learning strategies. Things like remote invigilation, things like blended learning approaches, like I said, and maximum class participation. Now, at the moment, you're all muted because this is a webinar structure, very similar to a conference. However, as Ed said, every 10 to 15 minutes, I will stop to enable a question process to, as far as reasonably possible, gain your interaction. Personal development during this time is also vital, and I'll talk about that a little bit later regarding what I've been doing and what I recommend for anybody to do. The objective, the first one, is to give you the ability to step out of your conventional classroom comfort zone. If, like me, you like very interactive face-to-face training. However, in person, that can't happen at the moment due to the various measures that quite rightly have been put in place to protect us. However, I'm virtually speaking to you from here in Dubai around the world. This is the 3rd webinar I've done for Highfield this week. Initially, we only scheduled for one, for 100 people. Within a day, that was sold out. The second one we scheduled, again, within a day, it was sold out. And then we decided to do a 3rd one. It's very daunting sometimes because I'm not speaking to a human being in front of me. I'm actually speaking to my webcam and my wall. I'm actually sat, or in fact stood, sorry, in my home. Yeah, but I've created space and I've titivated that space in regards to how I can use it to still achieve my aim. And that is to ensure, as far as reasonably possible, people have the tools to ensure their safety. Choosing the best virtual platform is also going to be covered. Training and assessing approaches that Highfield have developed for us and things that we can do to actually redefine how learning and development from a trainer's perspective can actually be pushed out to the masses. Now, we're in a fantastically unique position that within my lifetime, I hope, will never happen again. And that position is over 50% of the world are in some form of lockdown. So that is approximately 3.5 billion people, which is the world's population, is 7 billion, are sat at home wondering what to do. Now, with organisations like Highfield and training centres, we have solutions. Learner support strategies. Yeah, Anna, please mute something. Yeah, learner support strategies are also vitally important, and I'll talk about those a little bit later. And your learning and development. Now, if like Mr. Arasi, can you place yourself on mute, please? Thank you. If, like me, you can cover the broad spectrum of health, safety and security, but you can't cover food safety. As soon as I locked down and the show closed, I started to study food safety. Now I've understood the concept and dynamic of food safety as a health, safety and security professional, but I've never really had the time to do a food safety qualification. So one of the first things I did, I reached out to Highfield and I upskilled myself in the qualification and my training ability. I also took advantage of the Highfield process of infection control, because that's vitally important for me as the head of operational risk management for the show, but also for me as an individual and a father. So I took advantage and became qualified in infection control as well. We're more connected worldwide than we actually think. Yes, we're on various forms of lockdown, as I mentioned earlier, but I personally have not spoken to my family as much in almost 30 years as I am now. I'm constantly speaking to my family back in the UK to ensure we're connected. I'm reconnecting with people that I haven't spoken to for 20 plus years. Yeah. I'm reconnecting with new people and developing my business off the back of COVID-19. Yeah, so I'm looking at this in a very positive way. We have the tools to actually utilize Highfield in a very proactive way to enable for us to continue to do business. Now, am I earning thousands and thousands of dirhams a month currently? No, I'm earning enough to survive. I'm giving a lot of things for free because training to me and giving people the tools to actually ensure their safety is vitally important, not just in a global pandemic. So Highfield, they first of all have various different types of qualifications that can support our learner's journey. They also have fantastic products that are designed in a similar vein, and they can be used to bolt together various fantastic courses, not just food safety specific, not just health and safety specific, not just first aid specific, not just security specific. If you use those and create a package, it gives you the broad spectrum of health and safety. International qualifications is a fantastic opportunity for you as a training centre to embed local legislation into the training. And I'll talk about the difference in qualification strategies in a little while. The e-learning platform is absolutely fantastic. Yeah, it's very engaging. It's easy to follow. It's easy to log into and will lead to an actual qualification if you go through a remote invigilation. The assessment, because we can't face-to-face assess, Highfield have put together a concept of remote invigilation, which is basically you log into the test with a Highfield invigilator watching you from another screen. So you have two devices, one with a camera that's pointing to, say, your laptop. The test is on your laptop. The camera enables the invigilator to see your test, to see your whole screen, to see you, to make sure that you are who you say you are, and also to see your desk to make sure you don't have notes. So the ability to remote invigilate is fantastic. It's also super environmentally friendly. Yeah, there's no paper. But most of all, as soon as you or your candidates finish that test and click end test, it tells you your results straight away. So when I did my food safety and my infection control, instantly I knew that I passed. And that was it was so fantastic, because normally, if you think about it, you do a classroom invigilation, you put the paperwork into a grey bag, that then goes to Highfield, you wait at least 7 days to receive the results. As a candidate, that is a very nervous time, because you're like, I studied, but have I passed? This cuts all of that out, and it's very environmentally friendly. What we're going to look at now is the concept of knowns. Now, this time last year, we were at an unknown phase. Now, unknown unknowns are things we're neither aware of nor understand. Future events or situations that are impossible to predict or plan. But if you think about it, this time last year, was pandemic on our risk radar? Yeah? Was it low risk? Was it medium risk? Was it high risk? Now, for most of the world, they weren't even thinking about it. They were thinking about other things like terrorism, like the civil and political unrest between the Middle East and America. Yeah? The UK was thinking about Brexit strategies. So we were horizon scanning for different things. Then that dynamic started to change. And COVID-19, towards the end of 2019, started to rear its ugly head. And we moved into what was called the known unknown phase. Now, these things that we're starting to become aware of, but still don't fully understand. And we're still in that phase now. Every single day, the news is covered with COVID-19. Yeah? Every single day, a scientist somewhere in the world is starting to give a possible solution, but it's not an accurate solution to how we're going to overcome this. Yeah? So at the moment, we're in the known unknown phase for our training strategy as well. Yeah? We know we're good trainers because we're Highfield approved, but what we may or may not know is what Highfield has the ability for in regards to supporting us to continue to do business during lockdown. And that's really what this webinar is all about. We've also got known knowns, and they're things we're aware of and things we fully understand. Now again, we all know we're trainers. Because we're approved by Highfield, we kind of know that we're good trainers. And because we're trainers, we also know the subjects that we train in. Now that's a known known, okay? Unknown knowns are in regards to things that we understand, but may not be aware of. And this is one of the reasons that I approached the founder of Highfield in regards to putting on this webinar for you. Because straight away, I started to understand the process of how I can continue to teach. Yeah? So moving the current known unknown of the pandemic into a known known for me, because I'm virtually teaching to people. But then I thought about, are all training centres doing that? Now, I spoke to Ed, I spoke to Richard, the founder of Highfield, and I spoke to various other people, and they were telling me the challenges that centres may have. So I said, okay, for free, let's put on a webinar to explain the ability of virtual teaching platforms. Yeah? So turning your unknown known, things that you know but you don't know are there, into a known known. So collectively, we can still drive forward our training and consultancy businesses. And that's quite an interesting concept. Strategic support. Highfield have all the tools to actually support us if we know how to ask the right questions. They have e-learning, as I've mentioned. They have blended learning. They have remote invigilation. And they have support. Now, blended learning, for those who are unsure about the concept, is using different teaching and training strategies to achieve a collective goal. Now, for the candidate, that collective goal is actually passing the assessment and setting the foundation of their knowledge in that given subject. Yeah? Now, blended learning, you can use different things, like e-learning to cover the theory, to then do practical application on a virtual platform. You can use WhatsApp groups. You can use signposting for academic level paperwork. You can use signposting for other areas of information specific to COVID-19 and its impact on health and safety, its impact on food safety. I was reading a very interesting article a day or today regarding what Swim England is doing in regards to reopening swimming pools in the UK. They're putting clear guidelines forward in regards to how they're doing it safely. And that was an article on LinkedIn that I read this morning. Yeah, and because La Pearl, we're a water show, and we are already talking about the potential of reopening sometime this year, that article's very interesting for me because we're a water show, we have 2.7 million litres of water in our pool plant operation system. Even though the public don't come into our big pool, our artists do. So I'm finding out information all the time in regards to how I can change my plan A dynamic and my plan B. Okay, Ed, I'm going to hold it there to enable some questions to come.
Okay, hopefully we'll get some more questions in a second. Guys, please, if you have a question, please type it into the Zoom chat. I'd be interested to hear your answer for this one, Steve. This is from Mohammed from Cobra Sports, and it's about lifeguarding. So it's an interesting question when we're in a situation where we can't, or we're struggling to get into a swimming pool. So his question was, which application would you recommend for a lifeguard course? But I suppose ultimately, the question would be, what action would you be taking at the moment when you don't have access to a pool?
Well, there's various different things that you can look at, and I'll answer each element of that question separately. The first one is using a platform like Zoom and running a similar webinar as we're doing now in regards to covering the lifeguard theory and the first aid, yeah, and making it very relevant to the actual environment that you work in, yeah. Now, if you've got pool lifeguards who have an interest in beach lifeguarding, you can do all the theory in a very engaging way using a virtual platform. You can also, as a lifeguarding training centre, and I noticed Mr. Stuart Hodsall was on, in regards to drown prevention and engaging with the public in schools, because it's not just lifeguards who need to ensure people's safety. It's us as parents, it's us as responsible adults, yeah? So putting content together, putting out webinars and videos of you talking about drown prevention, yeah? Training it, obviously the practical application of getting into a swimming pool or going to the beach at the moment is not possible. However, you still can remind and revise and go through the process of the theory and first aid practical application in a very interactive way. And I'll cover first aid strategies a little bit later, okay? Does that answer the question, Ed, or was there a second element?
Yeah, no, I think that's answered. Again, please, if it doesn't answer your question, you can type back in through the Zoom chat. Azizuddin, I know she got a question about their CPR and first aid. I know Steve will be talking about first aid later on, so we can always come back to that question. But just very quickly, Highfield have put together, in conjunction with DCAS approval, a remote first aid package. Level 3 HACCP courses. So Mimi, I'll have to get back to you about the HACCP courses. And one from Aaron there about explaining the concept of remote invigilation through the Zoom app. So it would be quite nice to just briefly explain the experience you had to get your food safety and your infection prevention and control qualification.
Okay, well, what I did first was I bought the e-learning credits. Now, the e-learning for both those qualifications is very, very good, because at the end of each unit, you do a short test. Now, that short test, you have to get 100% before you can then go on to the second unit. If you don't, the application signposts you back to the areas that you weren't sure of, for you to remind and revise those areas only. Once you've finished the e-learning journey, in regards to any of the e-learning products, you then engage with your centre manager and you book a remote invigilation. You use Zoom and Lifesize and other platforms to get an electronic version of that exam paper onto your screen. So take, for instance, my journey. The exam was on my laptop. I also had set up my mobile phone on a small tripod so the invigilator could see me and could see my screen. They could also see my table. The first question they asked me was, please, can you show me your identification? Yeah. So I showed them my passport. I put my face to the screen so they could see the passport and my face. This is me. Yeah. They then talked me through the process of how the remote invigilation would run. They then, are you happy? Do you have any questions? They then set the exam to go. And I worked through the questions. At the end, I finished. He popped back up again because I was using Adil. He's a fantastic invigilator, yeah, for my purposes. He said, Steve, are you sure you finished? Yes, Adil, I have. I clicked end test. Straight away, I found out that I got a distinction on the infection control. I found out that I missed distinction by 1 point on the food safety. So I was overjoyed with that knowledge because straight away, I knew I'd passed, yeah, which is fantastic. We then had a conversation about when would I get my certificate. He mentioned to me, if you want the paper certificate, that will have to wait till the end of lockdown. However, within the next 24 hours, I will send you a PDF of your certificate. Now for me, because I'm very environmentally orientated in protecting the environment, a PDF is more than enough because it is a real certificate. It does have your certificate number on the bottom. And it is, before it goes into a printer, what you get in person anyway. Because if you're like me, the first thing I do when I get a certificate, I scan it. I then put it on the virtual cloud in one of my electronic files to store it. Because when I apply for a job, or I apply to an organization to join them, say like IOSH, the ISRM, the ISRM, etc., I need to prove I have qualifications to become a various graded member. Okay, and with that, I can just email it. I don't need to worry about finding my certificate first. Okay, so that is the remote invigilation journey. Now, last week, somebody asked the question, can training centres do that? And the short response is, at this time, no, because Highfield are still tweaking it in regards to making it fully capable. As soon as Highfield are happy, they will then engage with training centres in regards to validating how a training centre can deliver it. And in my mind, what I think that would look like is a Highfield invigilator will invigilate you invigilating a session. Yeah? Does that answer the question?
I think so. We've got quite a few technical questions coming in. So Sarath Kumar, you're asking some questions about technical ones. I think we'll get back to you on those ones, or we can get that through, do that through your centre managers. Because there's some really, I like some of the questions that are coming through because they're really to do to demonstrating the challenges that trainers are having. We've got I think El-Marie, is it El-Marie? Or Elmar, I can only see it on my system. They do culinary training in South Africa. And the internet is not as available in other countries. And so Elmar feels at a loss on how to complete learning. So what techniques would you use, Steve, if you didn't have access to strong internet connection?
Okay, well, I would put short videos together first, yeah? I would put them on my YouTube channel. I would keep them as unlisted, and then I would share them in regards to explaining and demonstrating a given process, yeah? I then would engage with my learners to do exactly the same in regards to imitating what I've done, yeah? And practicing what I've done and sending those back to me for me to invigilate. It's a very elongated process, but it overcomes various things like the internet. Now, because the internet is not fully controlled by us, we have various effects like the weather. Now, if you're in Dubai or maybe Abu Dhabi, we've got a sandstorm at the moment, yeah? Things like that, electrical storms, rain, demographics affect the internet. So if you are using an internet platform and it drops off, you've already predefined that if you lose connection, try to log in and log out again. Communicate with me on WhatsApp or another social media platform, telling me your challenges, and we can reconvene at a later date. Yeah. So weak internet connection, you can overcome it by strategically putting things on in regards to short videos that people can watch, WhatsApp, voice messaging, etc., etc. Okay. Does that give an overview of overcoming that challenge, do you think, Ed?
I hope so. Just another question here, like from Nashila. How can we make sure the participants or trainees are attentive while e-training them? Any tips to catch their attention?
Well, first of all, e-learning, yeah. You can analyze, if you've got access to the back end of the Highfield's LMS system, how long it's taking them on each unit, yeah. Now, I've been doing that with my learners all over the world. I've currently got learners in Las Vegas. I've got learners in Ukraine. I'm engaging with a company, a large company in Singapore, in regards to e-learning and blended learning strategies. So e-learning, I utilize the Highfield learner management system. Okay. For blended learning, for small groups, like take for instance first aid, I have everybody's face on my screen, yeah? Now, I've got 2 screens, okay? So for a webinar, I'm actually looking at myself, or when Ed speaks, looking at Ed. But for a group 2-way communication activity, I can see everybody. So that's how I know they're attentive, yeah? Now, if the connection's lost, I have the ability through a WhatsApp group that I create for my learners to ask them, is there an issue, yeah? And I've already predefined those emergency action strategies for losing connection, for making sure that there's engagement. When I do a 2-way qualification, I try to embed a lot of activities that they can do as well. Yeah, so that's what I do. And I understood the concept of that very quickly, because that was exactly what I was doing when I was having conference calls with my family. Yeah, my sister was in one house, my nieces were in other separate houses, my mum and dad were in another house, but we could see everybody's faces, and that was fantastic. It's basically called grid view on Zoom. On other platforms, they also have that ability. So then that creates a 2-way communication synergy. I'm going to hold the questions now, Ed, and move quickly on. I'll stop again in about another 10 to 15 minutes, okay?
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
So, the relevance of the qualifications. Now, if you just look at the list, some of Highfield's qualifications very quickly have been updated to include COVID-19 methodology, specifically infection control. Now, they've got infection control for healthcare workers, infection control for office workers. They've just recently launched an infection control for delivery drivers. Now, that one qualification for me is what people need now, yeah, because we're in a war. We're fighting an unseen enemy. But if you look at the other qualifications, they're also very, very, very relevant to now and the dynamic of the world when we defeat this pandemic, yeah? So utilize, as I mentioned earlier, those qualifications and use your knowledge in regards to how you can make them COVID-19 centric. Now, when I recently taught a first aid course, I was covering cardiopulmonary resuscitation. And I embedded that due to COVID-19 and me not knowing that the individual may or may not have COVID-19, I had to revert to a compression-only strategy, because I don't have a bag and mask in my pocket, yeah? I don't have a big protective pocket mask in my pocket, and even with that, I'm getting close to the person's face. So when I went through the actual demonstration, I had my gloves on, I had my face mask on, which is currently the requirement in here in Dubai. So I was only teaching compression only for that element. I'd already taught the full CPR protocols to them in a very engaging way. But when I came to COVID-19 relevance, I was doing compression only, yeah? So making it relevant is vitally important. Maya, can you please place your microphone on mute, please? Thank you. Now, the qualifications. I briefly mentioned that I'd cover qualifications a little bit later on. Now, Highfield have 3 basic models. The first one is the UK approved off-qual qualifications through the RQF. Yeah? Now, those qualifications are relevant to UK legislation, which is fantastic as a signpost to further information about embedding a good safety strategy, but it isn't always relevant to your local demographic, as in the place where you are. So Highfield created international versions of their RQF qualifications under Ofqual. Now, the importance of the international qualifications is that we as training centres, no matter where we are in the world, can use that international qualification and embed local relevance, local legislation, local regulatory requirements to any of their given qualifications to make them locally compliant. So that's what an international qualification is. Its learning outcomes, its assessment criteria are exactly the same as any off-qual qualification. However, it's locally relevant because it's had all the UK legislation stripped out of it. Highfield have also got, and I've taken advantage of this for the whole time I've been a Highfield approved training centre, a strategy for you as trainers and training centre managers and training centre owners to develop your own qualifications. You then give that qualification structure to Highfield for review in regards to what level you think it is. They review it against the Officer Qualification regulatory requirement for that level. So a personal experience myself, currently I'm going through the process of creating a level 4 accredited qualification in risk and crisis management to accompany colleagues of mine qualifications at level 5, level 6, level 7 that are already on the RQF registry. So we've engaged with Highfield in regards to accrediting the level 4 qualification because operationally and tactically in any organisation it's needed, yeah, in regards to a crisis management strategy and risk management strategy, yeah. Now, is it a Highfield qualification? No, it's a Highfield accredited qualification. So what that means is Highfield are giving it their approval, yeah, that it does meet the learning outcomes and assessment criteria as if it was a Highfield qualification. Okay, so those are the 3 certification strategies. The tools, guys, are here, yeah. For the last 6 weeks, my mind has been on overdrive in regards to how I can use these tools to give a suitable learning journey still during lockdown, yeah? Now, I'm sure after this webinar, you'll have more questions. That's why I'm very open to you engaging with me on LinkedIn, engaging with me through Highfield, or engaging with me by email in regards to asking more questions. I'm not going to charge you for it. I'm not going to expect anything in return because I believe in divide and conquer, yeah? Which means the competition that we all are for each other is very healthy, yeah? More good quality training centres need to survive this because the training we deliver is vitally important for humanity's survivability. I'm going to expand a little bit now on training for virtual learners, okay? Now, frequently asked questions. The first one is certification. The PDF that you get is exactly the same as a paper certificate. One's electronic, one harms trees, okay? If you require, however, due to your local government legislation, a paper certificate, as soon as Highfield are fully operational again, they will send the paper version over to you. So you'll get a PDF of initial approval during lockdown, and then engage with your centre manager in regards to getting the paper versions, because some people still like to have entries. I personally don't. Assessment methodology. We've spoken about remote invigilation, which is one strategy. Some of the e-learning courses are certificate of achievement, which means the assessment is embedded in the e-learning course. And those courses, I'm talking about the small bite-sized courses, where people generally doesn't need a certificate for it, but they need the knowledge, okay? Blended learning, assessment strategies, first aid, the question technique. Highfield already preempted pandemics like this in regards to an oral question version of the multiple choice questionnaire in regards to their first aid courses. That's already been tested by me long before this pandemic. So when I assess the theory of a first aid participant, I use oral questions, which means I'm asking the same questions as multiple choice. I'm giving them 4 possible answers for me to give them the correct answer. That also overcomes language difficulties, where people can possibly speak very good English, but they can't read and write very well. Yeah? Practical application of first aid again. I use videos. I demonstrate live. I'm very gifted as a trainer. I have all my mannequins here with me to put on a remote environment first aid course if I wanted to. I have all my equipment here. Yeah. Now, actually remind and revise, or actually teaching them and them showing me that they practically can do the skill. I've got various different ways. The first one is I create them as the teacher telling me what to do. Yeah. So they walk me through the process. I do the process. That's one strategy. The second strategy, especially for compressions, I say to them, if you don't have a mannequin, use a t-shirt with 3 or 4 pillows stuffed into it to create a body. Yeah? Lay that body on the floor, position your camera, go through the primary survey where I can watch them, imagine it's got a head, or if they've got a cuddly toy, push a cuddly toy into the top, creating a head. Yeah? And actually go through the motions. Yeah? Yes, you're not seeing breath going in, you're not seeing the rise and fall of the casualty's chest. Yeah? So it's not the same as using a mannequin. But unfortunately, we don't have the opportunity to use mannequins at the moment due to infection control issues. Yeah? What I teach also is, as soon as lockdown has come out, approach me, we will go through the practical application with the mannequin. Now, secondary survey and recovery position. One of my first aid candidates, his wife was there. So they were practicing on each other. So I was sat watching them on a screen do the exact same as I would be asking them to do in a classroom. Bleed control. They may or may not have bandages. They may or may not have their own first aid kit. If, like me, you do have one, then I get them to use their bandages and dressings. Again, I'm watching them. I've already demonstrated, either on a physical body, and my son's here, or on one of my mannequins, because I've got full body mannequins. Yeah? So there's various different ways to overcome things. Choking adults, if they're alone, I get them to put a pillow in front of them when they're doing the abdominal thrusts, so I can see that they're doing it properly. I get them to place the pillow on their arm and hit the pillow, yeah? Which is still a strategy of the methodology behind teaching a choking activity, yeah? Will it fully replace first aid? No. But what it will do is allowing remote learners, once we come out of lockdown, to zoom in centrally, because you as a corporate organisation are sent mannequins to those remote areas. You're in the base location and you're reviewing on a continuous professional development strategy. Using recordings and videos. As we said at the start, we're recording this for social media purposes in regards to pushing information out to the wider audience who maybe weren't able to Zoom in today, yeah? To give them the knowledge. I've created small videos. You're going to see one small video in a little while of what I'm doing in regards to teaching anybody about various things. Small, bite-sized 5-minute videos are more than enough to engage with the community. In a classroom, I use videos. So I'm doing exactly the same here on the virtual platform. First aid assessment, I've already covered. And group activity. It's very important to create group activity. If you're the only person talking and demonstrating, it's not two-way. Now, I've created a strategy for group activity, and it's basically one central meeting point, as in one virtual meeting room that we're in now, with at least 4 breakout rooms. Now, how I create those, I create separate Zoom meeting rooms around the central meeting point. Now, if I'm teaching crisis management or journey risk and safety management, my candidates, I take a maximum of 20 on those courses. I communicate with them before and tell them which room they're going to use as a breakout room. Also, 5 minutes before we actually start the class, we do a rehearsal where I allocate one of those 5 individuals in each room as the host of that room. The central room, their microphones are on mute, yeah? They're typing questions to me as you're doing now. The other rooms, it's two-way communication to embed group activity. I then, during the group activity periods, and when I do a risk and crisis management course, there's lots of group activity and brainstorming, I can visit each individual breakout room, yeah? So that's how virtually I'm overcoming that. And I've trialed that myself on various times during this lockdown period, yeah? Setup is vital. The example on the left is very similar to my setup now. Now, slightly off screen, to my left, your right, I have my whiteboard because I'm going to be using it in a little while. I have my laptop set up at a good height so it looks as though I'm looking straight at you, because when I'm talking, I'm looking at the camera. I also have a second screen for me to glance at in regards to reading the PowerPoint slides, yeah? I use various things because I've created a space in my home, and the picture on the left is where I'm standing now, basically where that whiteboard is. So I've got my sofa and my living area here. Normally, where I'm standing now is my table. I've pushed that over to the left so you can't see it. I've used branding, because branding for your company is vitally important, yeah? I've used lighting because I'm an avid amateur photographer. So I've got studio lighting to enable and give you the ability to at least see me. The image on the right is what I do with this space at weekends. I create a virtual dojo in regards to jiu-jitsu and Systema. And I communicate with people here in Dubai and teach them martial arts, and people back in the UK and other countries. So setup is vital. The how of how we train is the key. Not just on a virtual platform, but any training platform. Assess your capability. You may not have the amount of equipment I have, but you've all got a mobile device or a laptop because you're zooming into me. That mobile device and laptop has probably got a camera, yeah? So you can use video of people seeing you. Being imaginative about where you want to place that video to achieve your virtual learning journey aim. Assessment of delivery. How are you going to deliver this to achieve the assessment criteria for the given qualification or the training journey that you want to portray? Create engagement remotely. Things like WhatsApp, Facebook groups, YouTube, Instagram, yeah? Platforms like Zoom are all utilized to create engagement continuously during the learning journey. Now, a emergency first aid course with defibrillation, normally we deliver in 1 day. For me, I've stripped that down to small, bite-sized communication strategies, because it's amazing how tired people are getting due to screen activities. Yeah. So I want them to learn that skill. I want them to remember it. So I've split it up into small, bite-sized sessions. Yeah. I use e-learning to teach first aid, the theory part, because they get a PDF of the book that they can keep. I then use practical application to cover all the assessment criteria and more. Yeah. I teach catastrophic bleed to the clients that I've got from the show, because we're very high risk to a catastrophic bleed situation. The more advanced first aid, I teach advanced spinal cord injury management, utilizing the systems that I've got here. So creating remote engagement and excitement to learn is something that you can easily do if you spend time rehearsing it, and thinking about it. Blended learning, I've been mentioning it all the way through this webinar today. The tools are there. This gives you the foundation to start to put the tools together. After this, engage with your centre managers. Speak directly to Ed. Ask, can you speak to Richard? Richard is a fantastic font of knowledge. And when I mention Richard, I mean Mr. Richard Sprenger, the founder and chairman of Highfield. Yeah? He's got years and years of public speaking and engagement experience. Plus, he's got a very quick mind. So anybody can actually reach out and Zoom chat with him if you wish. But go through your centre managers first. Use e-learning, like I said. Engage with your learners. Create a classroom experience and ensure, as far as is reasonably possible, you create the environment as though the participants are actually in the same room with you. I'm going to show you a short example of how I used an everyday object. This is actually one of my son's teddy bears to teach infant choking. Yeah. So I'm going to show you the video, and then I'm going to use another teaching practice whilst you're watching the video. Good morning, everyone. My name's Steve, and I'm talking to you from Dubai. I'm going to be covering today probably what is, for most parents, a very, very frightening possibility, and that is infant choking. Now, if like me, you've got a little one at home who's very inquisitive, they want to know the taste, texture, they're interested in the colour of everything that they see around them, and they don't know that things can harm them. So basically everything goes into their mouth. The best case scenario is for you to proactively think about risk mitigation. However, we can't always keep our eyes on our little ones. So we need to think and arm ourselves with the potential for worst case scenario, which would be an infant choking incident. Now, as you can see, I've got Teddy here to be my assistant during this process. If your infant is choking, the first thing you can do is support them using a spider-like grip on the back of the head and checking their mouth if you can to see if you can see the actual blockage. If you can, and it is safe to do so, try to get the blockage out. But the chances are you will possibly push the blockage into their airway. So I'm not talking about pushing your fingers into the child's mouth. Okay? Now, if you can't see a blockage, you need to hold them in a wire-like grip, like you see on the camera. Their legs straddling the back of your forearm. You rest your elbow on your thigh and point the child's body, the infant's body, down towards the floor. Then with the heel of your hand, you strike between the infant's shoulder blades, up to 5 times. In between each strike, quickly check to see if the object's come out. 3, 4, 5. Now if the object still hasn't come out, spider-like grip on the back of the infant's head, place them onto your other forearm, with your forearm supporting their back, 2 fingers pointing down, find their breastbone, and then you conduct what are called chest thrusts. And again, it's up to 5. If the object still hasn't come out, you continue. 5 back blows. Again, checking to see if the object has come out between each back blow. And chest thrusts. 2 fingers, and as you can see, the fingers are pointing straight up, so it's a chest thrust straight down onto the infant's breastbone. And you can... Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop screen share and show you another technique. Now, as you can see behind me, now I can see all of you as well. I can see at least 6 of you on the screen. Okay, so everybody give me a little wave to make sure that you're still awake. Thank you so much. Now, obviously, whiteboard, when I'm teaching in a classroom, I like to embed. Somebody's playing with my screen. Yeah? Please, can you put your phone to silent so you're not interrupting my screen? Okay. Now, the actual whiteboard can be utilized on a virtual platform. Yeah? Anna, did you change my screen for some reason? Thank you. Yeah? Now, what I'm going to go through is the hierarchy of risk control, but I'm going to make it relevant.
One moment, Steve. I think someone's sharing the screen. Eric, can you unshare your screen, please?
Eric Makabuhai, can you please stop sharing your screen? Thank you. Yeah? Because as you saw, if you start to try to share your screen, it upsets what I'm trying to share, okay? But it was good that you've actually found out how to share your screen, so thank you. Now, hierarchy of risk control. We've seen it in everything. We use a similar methodology in regards to security. We use a similar methodology in health and safety and food safety. But it's very, very relevant during COVID-19. Now, elimination in regards to COVID-19. Eliminating the risk is what the governments have done, and most of you are actually doing, is staying at home. Yeah, because that eliminates the risk of you actually getting the virus. But we can't completely stay at home, can we? Okay, because we do have to go out, and that's where the other elements start to embed. But to eliminate the risk is the most and the safest part of hierarchy of risk control. So stay at home. Substitution. Most of you, like me, are now working from home. So you've substituted your office space in line with elimination and actually started to work from home. Yeah? As trainers, you can't face-to-face speak to people in a classroom, so you've created a virtual classroom in regards to substitution of that classroom, which again is a good methodology in regards to controlling the risk. Engineering solutions, yeah? Social distancing, trying to keep social distancing falls into engineering and administrative control, yeah? Now, as far as is reasonably possible, you keep 2 meters between you and anybody else outside of your immediate family environment that you live with, yeah? But sometimes that is very challenging as well, especially when some people don't actually understand the concept of social distancing, which leads into the process of dynamic risk control. But administrative measures, training yourself and your staff in regards to infection control is an administrative measure, yeah? Ensuring that the processes that you put in place within your work and training environment lead to administrative measures. It's not as good as elimination, but it's still a good methodology, okay, to keep them safe. PPE, yeah, is the least effective way to protect ourselves. But unfortunately, the government around the world are saying, if you go out, wear PPE. So you have your little face mask on, you have your gloves. But what you don't understand is that doesn't fully protect you from somebody who's got COVID-19. It protects a person if you have COVID-19. If you have COVID-19, you shouldn't be out anyway. Wearing gloves in a medical environment, or if you're treating a first aid casualty, those gloves are your lifeline to mitigate the risk of infection control directly from that casualty. However, wearing gloves when you go out in the environment isn't so good, because you automatically subconsciously assume that those gloves are going to protect you. But that gloved hand is touching so much, okay? It's better to use sterilization processes regarding hand sanitizer when you're out, and getting into the process of touching something like a door handle. As soon as you've walked through the door, hand sanitize. Move on. You've touched something else, hand sanitize. Because what that does is mechanical process. Because if you start to look at human nature of people wearing gloves, they're touching a door handle, then they're touching their phone. Then the phone goes off, they're playing with it, they're putting it up to their ear. The potential virus is now on the phone, even though they're wearing gloves. And now it's on their face. Now it's got the potential to transfer in their body. Yeah? So gloves for normal walking around, not so good. Face mask, regulatory requirement, if you've got one, is. As long as the people you're engaging with at your 2 meters distance are also wearing them. Yeah? Very vitally important. The biggest factor, if you don't need to go out, don't go out, stay at home, because that is the best way for us to actually flatten the curve globally and get back to a version of normal business. Now, as you've seen, guys, I very quickly related this to COVID-19. So when I teach health and safety, or security, or crisis management, etc., I teach this, but embed COVID-19 centric elements to make it current, yeah, using a very, very simple process. Now, Ed, we're going to have some more questions. So whilst I move this back out of the way, can you start adding some more questions, please?
Please, please send through any questions. I actually want to cover one that was sent in the first batch as well. We'll just get back to that. Yeah, it's a good one. This is from Abu Hafsa. Do you think it might be too late now to start online learning, as probably the lockdown is nearing the end in the majority of countries? We might be a few months too late.
Where is the gentleman from?
Well, I'm not actually sure. Mr. Abu Hafsa, can you just type a message of where you're based, which country you're in? I think he's in Dubai.
Okay. The lockdown for Dubai has relaxed certain regulations. However, if you analyse the numbers haven't dropped. I'm very hopeful that even though they've relaxed the regulations, those numbers are eventually, within the next 2 weeks, going to drop. But at the moment, they're not. If you look at countries like Singapore, initially, they reacted very, very well into containing the virus. Over the last week, Singapore have been facing a second wave. I was speaking to my colleagues in Singapore yesterday, and they are very, very nervous in regards to how this second wave could very quickly engulf them. So if any of you think that we're close to the end of getting rid of COVID-19 from a crisis management professional's perspective, we're not, yeah? Dubai could flatten the curve, but because our culture is based on tourism, as soon as we start to allow people back in, we may start to see increases, yeah? I'm very hopeful because the government here in the United Arab Emirates are being super proactive. But unfortunately, the expat community here, a lot of them are paying lip service to what it actually means to relax the restrictions. Yeah. So for me, e-learning is very important now, but e-learning and virtual learning is going to continue long after this. So no, I don't think it's too late, yeah, at all. Because the dynamics of what we used to know when we come off the back of this pandemic are not what we're going to know. The world has changed, yeah? If we revert back to what we were doing before, we're never going to come out of this pandemic. The world has changed, and in line with that change, our learning and development strategies need to change to continue to, as far as reasonably possible, ensure our health and safety. Does that answer your question, sir?
I'm sure. Let's see that Mr. Abrahafson comes back to us there. Yeah, you know, as I keep talking to people, Steve, I think as you're saying, you know, things will go back to normal, but it'll be a new normal. So do you think many customers or people who want vocational training will then continue to want to have e-learning or distance learning options?
Definitely. Because at the moment, I'm training individuals and a couple of companies, yeah? Because a lot of companies have actually stopped business and are still on lockdown. Those companies will start to look at embracing safer strategies of training their staff. But on top of that, the importance of e-learning and blended learning within your work environment reduces the amount of time that people have to stay in one classroom. Yeah. Now, if you relate that to a hotel environment, it's very difficult to get people into a classroom on a regular basis. But it's not very difficult for them to do a unit of e-learning during their break, after they've finished work, before they go to bed, and then coming into a classroom to do practical application. Yeah, it reduces the amount of time, thus increasing the operational capabilities of the hotel. Yeah, where people don't have to come during their work when they're supposed to be working for a longer space of time. So companies will start to reach out for better solutions, safer solutions, to ward off what has become the worst pandemic known to humanity in this lifetime, or in my lifetime. Yes, we've had other pandemics. We've had SARS, we've had MERS, yeah? We've had H1N1 swine flu, we've had foot and mouth disease, we've had mad cow disease. When I was a young boy, we had salmonella, Ebola, etc., etc., etc. But it wasn't so globally impacting. It was regionally specific. However, if you look at your risk register, guaranteed none of you would have pandemic at a level that it was going to be happening now. Some of you may not even have pandemic on your risk register. Then I question, why not? Because pandemics are happening in the world and coming up on our horizon scanning radar more and more frequently. Now, if you've got it low probability, high severity, that's wrong. Because yes, it's high severity, but it's not low probability, because low probability would relate to you're not expecting it for the next 100 years. Yeah? So definitely. Another question, please, Ed.
Some questions actually from Stuart Hodsall. It's more specifically about Highfield. Do you foresee Highfield offering a blended version of lifeguard quals, for example, 50% online and 50% practical? I mean, I can answer a portion of that already, which is, you know, we don't have plans to develop a specific e-learning for lifeguard. However, there are elements like first aid that can be already start to be taken online as part of a blended learning approach. Anything to add to that, Steve?
Yeah, what I would say, because obviously I know Stuart Hodsall myself, is approach Highfield with a solution to that potential problem, because you've highlighted a very good factor. And I think I mentioned it a little bit earlier on in the webinar regarding how we can still train. Yeah, that could be a continuous professional development process for any lifeguard team, putting stuff virtual that they can tap into on a continuous basis, using platforms like YouTube, using platforms like, I don't know, Dropbox, etc. Virtual platforms so you can talk to them, yeah? To then reduce the amount of time spent on theory within a classroom. So I think that's a fantastic opportunity. And if you'd like, we could have a side conversation with Ed, who's also an aquatic professional as well, have a Zoom conversation later on in the week and actually brainstorm how we can present that to Highfield, because I think you've got a very, very good key business opportunity there, Stuart.
Okay, just a couple of other things, because I know obviously time's ticking on there. So we've got Sander van Verkoven asking if we can share an example of eLearn. Sorry, Sander, we don't have time to demonstrate that to you right now, but please follow up with your centre manager or myself and we can help you with that. There's a good comment here from Mohammed Baba, which is to develop this culture, which I'm assuming is referring to people getting used to online, will take time for people to adjust with things. So what's your opinion on people's ability to adjust to online learning?
It very much depends in regards to how people learn. Now, I've got quite a large LinkedIn community that I'm connected with. On a daily basis, they're signposting each other and me to new e-learning strategies. I'm zooming into webinars, conference calls on a regular basis because I'm learning other people's delivery methodologies. Yeah. So adjusting to e-learning, it very much depends on various factors. And our friend in South Africa mentioned something very important. Some regions of the world, their internet capability isn't good. So e-learning may not be a strategy for there. Dubai, various areas within Dubai are very, very good. Other areas not so good, and the signal drops in and out. So again, e-learning strategies may or may not work. Okay, but generally, from playing with it myself and pushing it to other parts of the world, including the UK, people are adapting to it very well. Because like I said at the start, 50% of the world's population are on lockdown. Yeah, they're bored. Give them something to do. Engage with them. Don't just give them an e-learning solution. Give them a blended learning solution. Even if it's, here's a level 3 health and safety, I will discuss each unit with you in a very short Zoom chat, because then you're embedding the reason why Highfield are recommending this methodology for this methodology for this. And you can make it relevant to their corporate sector, because training for me has to be relevant. If training is given in a mechanical process, it's not relevant because it's a version of what things should be. Now, as we know, because we work in different environments, what fits one organization doesn't necessarily fit another. So what I implement is a learning and training needs analysis on individuals and corporate organizations to understand how they need to learn. Okay, I hope that answers the question. What I'm going to do, Ed, before you jump on, I've only got a little bit more to cover, and then I'll answer some questions at the end. Okay,
that's fine, thank you. I'm just writing some notes in the background for people.
No problem. So, how can you utilize your time? The first thing and the most important thing is get up every single day with a purpose. Yeah? Get up in the morning as though you're going to work, even though you're working from home. Yeah? If you're like me, I like to get up in the morning, have my shower, get changed into shorts and t-shirt. Normally, I don't walk around my house in a suit. And then I start to read. I spend at least 40 minutes reading LinkedIn articles, catching up with news articles, both local and international. I also put my television on and start to listen to Sky News, okay, which stays on in the background normally all the way through the day to update me. I've then got a list that I produced the previous day in regards to what my focus is. Yeah, I spend a lot of time on myself and my own mental health. Yeah, I talk to family and friends to keep the connection going. I sit and think about things. I engineer new processes to trial in regards to how I can adapt my training. I have small bite-sized trainings that I continuously deliver out, again relating to first aid. My training for first aid is free during this lockdown period, so anybody can zoom in. I limit it to 6 people a session. My sessions are normally about 2 hours long, and I've got a specific focus for that session. Anybody can zoom in to learn that activity. If people then want to go on to a certification process, they can engage with me by email, and then I start to ensure that they meet their learning outcomes and assessment criteria, including giving them an e-learning credit. But I'm very passionate about, especially during this time, giving people the tools to assist to save somebody's life. So the actual training globally is free for me. And I would very much promote any of you who have the ability to teach first aid to start offering it to your community as a loss leader to bring in business. Now, I've been offering it for free for like 3.5, 4 weeks now since Highfield actually published that we can start delivering first aid. Every single person that I've taught initially came on the free course. Every single one has now gone on to certificating in first aid. Yeah. So that's what I do to utilize my time. It's very important that you have a schedule. Be the best you can be, yeah? As you can see, I've actually taken effort today to put on a shirt, to put on a suit, because I'm presenting to a global audience. When I'm teaching first aid, I still wear trousers. I still wear a collared t-shirt or a shirt to give a good presentation of myself. Personal improvement pathways I also focus on. As I mentioned, food safety, infection control. I'm constantly analysing global threats in regard to embedding it into my journey risk and safety management courses and my crisis management courses, okay? I'm also studying in line with that, yeah, in regards to my level 6 strategic risk and crisis management, my MVQ level 5 occupational health and safety, yeah, I'm doing various small bite-size terrorism and counter-terrorism courses to keep my knowledge up to date. I'm also zooming into other people's trainings, as I mentioned before. Invest a little to gain a lot. Yeah, and what I mean by that is Highfield have actually reduced their prices of their e-learning credits by 50%, yeah, which is fantastic, okay, for me, because that enabled me to spend a little bit of money and get 2 extra qualifications. And it didn't take me long because I've got the time now to invest. Yeah? To invest now in other qualification strategies that you can see being business opportunities for the future for you as a training centre. Yeah? Does that make sense? Sure. My personal development is ongoing. It's continuous. It always has been. It's not just the pandemic that has actually forced me to upgrade myself. At least every year, I try to do at least 4 courses for my own personal development. Strategic market analysis. As both myself and Ed mentioned, the world as we knew it before COVID-19 is not what we know it now, is not what it's going to be. So spend time on how you can actually push out marketing strategies and content for what people need now. Yeah, there may be that you have the ability in a normal day where there isn't a lockdown to deliver 75 courses. But out of those 75 courses, 80% of them are now no longer relevant whilst we're all on lockdown or versions of lockdown. So you focus on what courses can trickle feed you money now. You need to understand that within a crisis, it's about business continuity and survivability, not making millions. Yeah? Training companies, unless you have multiple arms and you have multiple outreach offices, you don't make an absolute fortune. Yeah? It's about surviving now and creating partnerships for the future. How we can assist. Train the trainer. We're one of the only international training companies that actually deliver IADT, award education and training, and certificate education and training. Okay, so reach out to us if you want to turn your current IADT into an award education and training. If you want to turn your award education and training into certificate education and training. Now, certificate education and training in time gives you the ability to start delivering award education and training and IADT, the International Award in Delivering Training. So upskill strategies. We're very happy to partner with people to enable you to become competition of ours in the future, which is, excuse me, which is what I've just mentioned. Crisis management, as I've mentioned, we're developing a course, yeah, to give you an operational understanding. So again, if you're interested in risk and crisis management and looking at the complexities of it, not just from a health and safety or food safety or security standpoint, but from a marketing standpoint, from a financial standpoint, from a human resource management standpoint, from a personal, family-orientated standpoint, then reach out to us. Yeah. During this pandemic, all of the prices that we normally offer, we've hugely reduced to give something back to enable for us to survive. It's the same with you guys. You probably will not be able to sell your courses for what you were initially selling them for. Yeah. Some of our courses, like our first aid, we're also giving money to charities, okay, to support the charities and to give back to the community. Yeah, so things like that are very, very solid organizational resilience and business continuity management strategies. Okay, now questions, please.
Right, bear with me. Hold on. So we're going to take first question, and so guys, what we'll do is we'll do a combination. If you don't want to come in and ask your question personally, that's fine. You can still type it in there. But if you'd like to ask it personally, please just type that in the Zoom message. So first of all, we do have a personal question. So Mohammed Baba Shafiq from Abu Dhabi, please unmute yourself and ask your question. Are you there, Mr. Mohammed?
Yes. Thank you for giving me the time. Actually, the first thing, but while having this e-learning, certainly the level of quality would suffer because we have to acclimatize the trainers as well as with the audience and the trainees also, that they can understand through like this audio visual aids and everything that can be tackled, and their queries will be tackled, and certainly it will take time to adjust the things. And secondly, we are dealing with a lot of like blue collar jobs, and
it takes time for the training center to actually be dynamic about their approach. Yeah, e-learning doesn't actually water down the quality of a qualification. E-learning or virtual learning doesn't in some ways water down the quality. It's down to the training center to change their dynamic of what they're teaching. So I completely disagree with you, sir. And I'd be very much happy to have a sideline conversation to assist you in further understanding the actual proactive process. Okay. I'm sorry to cut in there, but we are very, very short on time. So I'm very happy, Mr. Mohammed, if you reach out through your centre manager to have a Zoom conversation in regards to this, because I can see fantastic opportunity in regards to the negative occurrence. Ed, a couple more questions, and then I think we'll have to close.
Okay. Yes, it is a challenging time for everyone, and I think this is I think we all have to remember we're still in relatively early days of this, and you know, it's been a big wake up call for all organisations. It's been interesting. I'll just throw in there, watching my wife and her school moving everything online. It's
not a much difficulty for the trainer. I would say the difficulty with the trainees, because we are dealing with mostly with the blue collar jobs. So okay. They are not so much. I mean, they are qualified with the thing, but they need the first aid trainings, especially at their work settings, to be safe.
Well, what I
So,
suggest is we'll have a side conversation regarding that.
Mr. Mohammed, I 100% agree. Now, why my former demographic, when I owned my own centre, was also a mixture of blue collar and white collar trainers, and training centres. One thing you can use to overcome that is teach the qualification in their language. A lot of blue collar workers, like labourers, etc., have a central location where they live, which for some reasons is very unfortunate in regards to they are presenting cases a lot within the media regarding those areas. But they can centrally get around a computer and you split it down, you slow it down, you spend more time with them in regards to their understanding of this. Yeah? That's one easy strategy to slow down the training. It isn't going to be as quick and fluid as it is in the classroom. You have to split it up into bite-sized portions. Okay, so that's one very quick strategy before we move on to the next question. Okay, but as Ed said, and as I said, I'm happy to continue to talk about this with you as an individual at another time and continue to support you to get your training back on track. Another question, please, Ed. Thank you.
That's it, actually, is the direct questions. I'm just starting to wrap things up now for you. Just to everybody, I can tell from the questions we've had this week, there's still a lot of questions for people regarding the assessment process, the online assessment process. So in the background, I've been talking with the Highfield team remotely, and so we're planning on putting on a follow-up webinar to a shorter webinar, but it will be to specifically discuss the online invigilation and assessment process. And we'll be in contact with everyone who's been part of these webinars. We'll be in contact with everyone to invite them to come and join the next webinar.
And as Ed mentions, Highfield are very willing to put on follow-up webinars to target more specifics in regards to blended and e-learning journeys, because it does take a lot of time for the actual trainer to think about methodology and training delivery. Okay. Excuse me. I'm going to wrap up now, guys, because I have kept you for about an hour and a half, which is over what I wanted to keep you for. But it's been a very informative learning journey for me, first of all, in regards to how I adapt. But you've got two choices, basically. Either wait until the pandemic's over and then hope for the best, that you're going to get back into a classroom, or start to adapt your learning strategies now. I'm happy to continue to support you guys as an individual, as a training centre supporting other training centres. Collaboration is always vital. It's better to divide and conquer than command and control, because we're constantly learning from each other. Professional development strategies. Think about it, guys. There's lots of information online for free to assist you in supporting your clients, to assist you in finding new clients, to assist you in changing the dynamic of your marketing and sales strategy, to assist you to survive and continue to do business. But the key factor is, it is down to you and what positive, proactive implementation strategies you actually put into place. Thank you very much, first of all, to Highfield, and most importantly, to you guys for actually coming and engaging with me. Thank you so much, and please don't be a stranger. I'm available on LinkedIn. I'm available through my email at the